So you're labeling it. You don't have to write regular polygons. You can just write objectives, notes, objectives, 24, 25. Okay, and what the name of these objectives, you don't have to write it either because it'll be on all your worksheets. We're going to find the sum of interior angles of polygons, and then we're going to find the interior and exterior angles of polygons. That's what the 24, 25 is. So just write notes, objectives, 24, 25. And then do your best at drawing this shape. Okay, this was yesterday's chart, so you can just draw the shape down below it. And if you didn't get the chart when we're done with notes, make sure that gets added into there. Okay, Bella, you want to put your phone on my desk or you can put it up? So the last section we just took notes on, the inside of triangles add to equal what? 180. Okay, so keep that in mind because we're going to use that for this section too. The outside angles all added to equal what? 360. Okay, so the 360 is going to hold true for these shapes as well. So when we had polygons last year, we cut out the outside shapes of like a hexagon and a pentagon and a triangle and then I think a quadrilateral was the 4 shapes that we did. And all those outside ones, when we put them together, were 360. Okay, so that's going to follow over to this section too. But now we don't have triangles, we have shapes that have more sides, but we can use triangles, and you should remember this from last year as well, use triangles to figure out what the sum of the inside of these are. Okay, so we're going to do a drawing one, and then we're going to do one where we have a formula that came from that drawing. Okay, so I'm choosing a vertex. Okay, so I'm choosing this vertex right here. So I know your drawing might be a little skewed, but just try to pick the same one so we all have the same drawing. Okay, so from one vertex, okay, you're going to draw a line to all the other vertexes. Well, there's already one that's drawn to that one, so I don't need to draw that one. Okay, but then I would draw a line to that vertex, which vertex is an angle. Okay, and then I'm going to draw to that one. Okay, and then I don't need to draw to that one because there's already one drawn. Okay, so I made triangles. How many triangles did I make? 3. So I could use triangles by doing what we just did. Okay. We can use triangles to find out what the sum of the inside of that shape is. So if I know one triangle is 180, how can I find out what all of those would be? 180 times 3, okay, or 180 plus 180 plus 180, which would be a longer route, okay? So I know a triangle is 180, so I just made 3 triangles, so 3 times 180 would be what this shape is, okay? So now leading into the formula that we have, okay, this is a 5-sided figure, okay, but there was how many lines that I did not have to draw? How many lines did I, from one vertex, I drew lines to all the ones, and there was how many that I didn't have to draw to? 2, right? This one, right, and this one right here. So there was 2 of them that I did not have to draw, okay? So when I subtract how many their sides there were and how many lines I didn't have to draw to make the triangles, that gives me 3, which tells me how many triangles are in that shape, okay? So this leads to the formula that you're going to write right now, okay? All of these. Okay, there's 3 formulas. So the first 2, sum of the interior angles, and I just have this underlined so you'll notice that this has an S, this one doesn't. Okay, you don't have to underline that. So the sum of the interior angles of a polygon, we're going n minus 2, which is the sides. So like that one was 5. 5 minus 2 times 180 would tell me the sum of the inside. Okay, the second one down is the measure of an interior angle. Well, if I know the sum of all of them and I want to find out what one of them is, then I have to divide by the number of sides. Okay, then exterior angles, we just said it didn't matter if it was triangle or any others. okay, it's always going to be 360. But if I wanted to know what one of them is, then I got to divide by the number of sides. Okay, so I'm going to be quiet while you're writing. The key thing when we read the sentences, okay, because they won't always have drawings for you, okay, when you're reading the sentence, you're going to look at the word angles, okay, or angle. So if that's how you're going to know the difference between your formulas. So inside angles, we're dealing with triangles, okay? So we're either going to be dividing by n or not dividing by n, okay? So when there's an s, it means all of them. So we don't want to divide and make it smaller. We want the sum of all of them, okay? So when it's an s, it's this formula, okay? When it doesn't have an s, then they don't want all of them. They want one of them. So we've got to make that number smaller. So that's when we divide by n. What does n represent? What do you think n represents? What are we subtracting by? Yeah. The number of sides. Okay, so whenever there's an n, you're putting in the number of sides. Yeah. Huh? I don't know. I mean, mine's fine. 10. Anybody else having troubles with Wi-Fi since you've been? Okay. So the first one that we had the pentagon. Okay, so we just saw that on the other drawing. So we went 5 minus 2, which gave us 3, right? So there's 3 triangles, so we went 3 times 180, and that would give us all of them. But then if I want to know what just one of those angles were, then I'd have to divide by 5. It's not divide by 3, it's 5 goes into here, 5 goes into there, into both of those, okay? Now for exterior angles, this was the pie piece thing. So it doesn't matter what type of polygon it is. When we're looking for all of them, going all the way around the shape, it's always going to be 360, okay? But if I want one of the outside shapes, okay, or the angles, then you're going to divide by the number of sides. Okay, now we don't want to have to draw triangles every single time, because if you had like a 16-sided figure, you're going to waste time even trying to create the shape itself. So that's going to be why you want to use these formulas, because then you're just going to plug 16 into wherever the ends are at, okay? You can try to draw it if you want to. This is going to slow you down. Okay, so our very first problem, you're writing this out, number 21. And we're just going to do 4, and then you're going to try it on your own. So number 21, it says, find the sum of the measures of the interior angles of an octagon. I don't have a, I think he does, which, yeah. Okay. Yeah. Okay, so find the sum of the measures of the interior angles of an octagon. Okay, so yesterday you wrote that chart. How many sides is an octagon? 8. Okay, so 8 is the end. Okay, so we're looking here and we have an S. So the formula for the S is the n minus 2 times 20, because they want all of them. Okay, so what am I plugging in for n? 8. Okay, so now it looks like this. 8 minus 2, which most of you won't have to write this out. You'll just be doing this in your head. Okay, so 8 minus 2 is going to give me 6. And then when you get your notes, you're definitely going to need a calculator. Okay, and then you're just going 6 times 180, which gives us 1,000. So it's 1,080. Okay, so again, you could attempt to try to draw a 4-sided figure and then do the triangles and decide that there's 6 triangles, but that'll take you a while to do that. So if you can just remember which formula that you're using and what you're plugging in. Okay, next one, number 22. Don't worry about drawing this. Okay, just write the question out. Okay, these ones there were 2 points because they're looking for 2 things. So just write 22 out. Okay, so this one is like twofold. They'll have a drawing. So if you want to do what we just did on the pentagon one, pick a vertex and draw to all the other angles, and you can tell them how many triangles there are. Or if I count the sides, what do I do with the number of sides to tell me how many triangles there are? Subtract 2. Okay, so I'm just going to go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. Okay, so there was 10 sides. I'm just going to write this because you're not drawing the figure. Okay, so there's 10 sides, and I subtracted 2 from it. So that means that there is 8, and we're not going to write the word, I'll just put 8 triangles. Okay, so that's the first part of the question. You need to know how many sides there are. Okay, and again, if there's a drawing on there and you want to draw the triangles, okay? But most of the times it's just quicker to count how many sides there are, subtract 2, and that tells you how many triangles there are, okay? So that was the first part. So how many triangles are formed by drawing diagonals from one vertex to the other? Okay, so there's 8. Now they want you to find the sum of the measures of the angles in the figure. I already did the first part, because that was n, right? Minus 2. So what do I need to do with this number? By what? 180. Okay. So I'm going to multiply 8 times 180, because that was my n minus 2, which was 10 minus 2 times 180. Okay, that was how we figure out s, the s part. So it winds up being 1,440. Ooh, that's pretty good. 1,440. And that was just going 8 times 180. Okay, next one, 26. Okay, this is a 2-part one as well. And then we just have one more after this. Okay, so 2 points on this one because they want us to find the inside and the outside. Okay, so we're looking at our word here. There's no S, right? So we're finding an interior angle. So go ahead and underline that in your sentence so that you know where we're getting our formulas from. And exterior angle. So notice there's no S. So the 2 formulas that we're using, we're going to do what with those 2 formulas that are similar? To make the numbers smaller. Divide by what?
180.
The sides, n. Okay, so interior angle is n minus 2 times 180. That would give me all of them. I only want one of them, so I divide by n. If I wanted all of the outside, it would be 360. But they want one of them, so I divide by n. Okay, how many sides is there? 16. Okay, so we're plugging in 16 here. So we're going 16 minus 2 times 180 divided by 16. So I just replace the n's with 16. Okay, and then same thing down here. It's 360 divided by 16. Okay, order of operations. So 16 minus 2 would make 14. Okay, so now I'm going to go 180 times 14, which gives me 2,520. That we're going to divide by 16. Okay, I'm running out of space, so I'm going to go over here with my answer. You can write it on the right side if you want to on yours. So it's 157.5. Okay, then on the one on the bottom, when I go 360 divided by n, and n was the size, which is 16, 360 divided by 16 gives me n right here too. It's 22.5. Okay, when they want one inside and one outside angle, there was something that we learned in the last section that is true when two angles are next to each other and it's on the inside of the triangle and on the outside, when they're right next to each other, they add to equal what? What? 180. So this was, remember in our last section I extended and we said, okay, we're going to go this way, and then we went down this way. So if I knew this angle and this angle, they're supposed to add to equal 180. That's one outside, one inside angle. So there's a way to check your answer to see if you did it right, okay? Or if you trust yourself on the first one, then just subtract it from 180 and that gives you your second one, okay? And then you're not having to remember both of the formulas, okay? All right, last one. And this one I think is probably your toughest for this section. Just more steps, not necessarily tougher. Okay, so it says find the number of sides of a regular polygon, and you're going to see the word convex. Just ignore that. It just means that it doesn't cave in. It's just a solid shape, which all of these are going to be solid shapes. So find the number of sides of a regular polygon with each interior angle equaling 168. And I just don't have the degree symbol, so I just put that. That's what I had on my keyboard. Okay, there's no S. Okay, so if there's no S, then that means I'm going to divide by what? Side. Okay, so we're going to write that formula. So n minus 2 times 180 divided by n. They didn't tell us the sides. They want us to solve for the sides. They actually told us the answer as if we did know it, that the angles are supposed to equal 168. So it says find the number of sides, so we're solving for n. Okay, so in algebra, how do I get rid of that? What would be the opposite of that to get rid of it? The n part. Multiply. This is divide, right? So when we get rid of things to solve for variables, we do the opposite. So this is divide by n, so multiply by n. And what I do to one side to get rid of it, I gotta do to the other side. Get it there somewhere? Okay, what is this called when I do this? Distribute. So we need to distribute. That's my next step. So it's 180n minus 360 equals 168n. Okay, what would be my next step in solving for n? Because we're solving for the sides. How do I solve for minus the 180. Okay, so he's going to minus the 180 n to get rid of around this side to get all the n's together. Okay, be ready below or above. I was ready for your number above. Okay, so we have a negative 360 n equals a negative, oh no, not n. There's no n in here, sorry. Negative 360 equals a negative 12n. What's my last step to solve for n for sides? Divide by negative 12. So a negative divided by negative is going to change it back to a positive. So when I divide by a negative 12, n, which is sides, there are 30 sides. So if I were to plug it back, which you don't need to, I'd go 30 minus 2, which is 28. 28 times 180 will give me some big number. And then I divide it by 30, it should give you 168. Okay, so when you come across these, just pay attention if it's an S or not an S. If it has an S on here, you get to skip this step. You're just going to distribute and then isolate your n. Okay, it's one less step for you. Okay, which I think is what you have on your actual notes. Okay, so that is it for the notes. You are trying it now on your own. Cross off the ones that we've already done before. that we've already done, so that you're not doing them again. And then there's a couple of things I just want to point out. Okay, and then I'm hopeful that we are grading this today. Okay, should be the 20, 21 for you to try. Okay, so I did 21, 22, 20, don't remember, 26? Is that right? You guys have them written down. Put mine away. And then 30. So 21, 22, 26, and 30. Okay, on 25. Everybody looking at 25? They try to trick you if you don't read the full sentence and you're only looking at the word with angle, they mess you up on this one, okay? Because it says, find the measure of one of the interior angles. So if you're finding one, are you going to do, because it has the S, and the S is usually n minus 2 times 180, but this one says 1. So what are we going to do with that when you want 1? Dividing it by n. Okay, so that, where I said just look at the S, if there is an S or not an S, which formula, that one wouldn't apply to that one because they actually use the word 1. I think that's the only one that's like that, okay? And then there's one that uses the word convex. Just cross that word, number 35. It says find the number of sides of a convex polygon. Just ignore the word convex, okay? There's convex and concave. Concave means it goes in. Which we're not going to have any of those. Convex is just the regular shapes. Just ignore the word convex. Like you don't need to, that doesn't change anything.
So we're just crossing out convex.
Just the word convex. Because people are like, well, what is this a different formula? No. Just ignore the word convex. Okay, go for it. And obviously calculators. It goes a lot quicker.